How's it going? Welcome in to Bengals Breakdown. I am your host, Stone Shields. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us here on a Wednesday afternoon. Got a live show we are getting ready to get into. I'm pretty fired up about it. We've got 5 segments on today's live show. How about that? We'll get into that in a little bit. But first, going to be spending some time talking about Justin Simmons here on today's show. Simmons has made some news and some headlines recently going on Kay Adams' show up in Adams, and essentially saying, hey, a team like Cincinnati would certainly have the interest of Simmons, and listed a couple other teams as well. The Bengals, of course, in my opinion, could use another safety. Maybe not the organization's point of view, but I certainly think that they do. Do you want to sign Justin Simmons? Let me know in the comments of today's show. Type Y for yes or N for no. Give some shout outs here as we progress through this build up here. Tim Tyra, of course, is here hanging out with us as he always is. Tim Tyra's got a bit of a Reds update in the chat as well. Cincinnati up 5-1 over the San Francisco Giants, looking for their first sweep of the season. Just got their first series victory with the win yesterday. Looking for that sweep. I'm going to turn this fan on real quick. It is a little bit hot in here in our studio. Get that fan going. There we go. That's more like it. But let me know. Do you want Justin Simmons to join the Cincinnati Bengals? Simmons, of course, is a free agent. And really, for much of his career, he kind of was viewed as a top safety in the National Football League, perhaps the number one safety in the National Football League. And I thought he still had a really solid season with the Atlanta Falcons. But it seems like him and the Falcons are kind of going to go their separate ways. And he will be available. Said he wants to go to a winner and mentioned the Cincinnati Bengals. We're going to be talking about that on our first segment of today's show. So make sure you guys stick around for that. But first, we got to give a shout out to our friends over at Game Time, because today's show is presented by Game Time. Game Time makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Last-minute deals save up to 60% buying last-minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Game Time also has zone deals. Save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats for you. Also, the all-in pricing, toggling this feature up front, allows you to see your total up front so you don't get hit with any of those surprise fees at checkout like some of those other ticketing companies can get you with. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account, redeem code CHAT. SPORTS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, all guaranteed. Also going to be talking team needs on today's show. That is going to be our fourth segment on today's live show. So let me know what position group concerns you the most. Let's get some answers here in the comments section. Obviously, the Bengals have several needs. Edge rusher, linebacker, safety, corner, guard. Those are the ones that really stand out to me, but let me know what position group concerns you the most if you had to pick one. William House in the chat. Can always count on him hanging out. Appreciate that, William. He says guard. Dr. B says guard. Tim Tyra says safety, and Malachi Starks. Tim Tyra's going to enjoy our mock draft today. That is for sure. Sean says guard as well. Yeah, I think that's kind of what I go with, right? We're going to have a different answer on today's show, but I would say guard, it's just protecting Joe Burrow, right? You understand that all of this is for nothing. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, all of it is for nothing if you don't have Joe Burrow out there and healthy. So that's kind of where my mind goes. He's played well with bad offensive lines in the past. Obviously went to the Super Bowl with one of the worst offensive lines in the National Football League. But as he gets older, becomes even more and more valuable. You want to make sure you are protecting him. Also, let's talk corner here. Do you want to draft a cornerback? There's kind of mixed thoughts from my point of view. I thought Cincinnati needed to add a veteran via free agency. They have not done that, unless you count bringing back Marco Wilson, a veteran, but I would not say that is the case. And you've got a lot of youth in that room. So it's a room that needs to be better, but do you just want to add another young guy to that room? I'm kind of back and forth on what to do at that cornerback spot. So let me know what you guys think. Type A for yes or B for no. Do you want to draft a cornerback? Very split on this, in my opinion. You were getting good cornerback play out of Dax Hill, and then he got hurt. And then DJ Turner was finally coming along, and then he got hurt in L.A., and then from there, you were kind of battling. I think there's a lot of promise with Josh Newton. We'll see if he can develop into a guy that can be counted on. But Cam Taylor-Britt had the worst year of his career. I think we all expected him to be that CB1 coming into the season. And he got benched several times throughout the year. His head didn't seem like it was in the right spot. So definitely have some concern when it comes to that groom. And by the way, the coaches in the secondary are still the same. So you had all that turnover on the staff, but those guys are still coming back. So we'll have two mailbags on today's show. One will be segment 3. The other will be segment 5. So tons of opportunity to get questions in. 2 mailbags on today's show. We're doing 2 of them, an extra cut here. Going to be out of town a little bit next week, so want to make sure we got some videos stocked up for then. So make sure you guys get your questions in. Hashtag Bengals. Of course, you can super chat. Skip the line altogether. That works as well. We're looking for you guys to get interactive here with our shows. And seen Tim, a couple other people put some hashtag Bengals questions in as well. You can do this anytime throughout our live show today. It does not have to be during the mailbag. Make sure you get your questions in so we can run both of those mailbags here on today's show. Now, if you want us to start today's show, help us out. Hit that thumbs up icon if you haven't done so already. We would greatly appreciate it. Got about 60 people in here hanging out. Only have 18 likes, so always going for that 50-50 like ratio between viewership and likes. So help us out. Helps us out, and it helps the bosses be happy when we get those like numbers up as well. So make sure you hit that thumbs up icon if you haven't done so already. There we go. We have the 20 likes here, but keep hitting that for us right now. Coming up live here on today's edition of Bengals Breakdown, we've got some Justin Simmons rumors to talk about. Obviously, we talked about that right when we came on the air here. And we were going to be breaking down those comments that he made on the Kay Adams show. Also, it is my 7-round mock draft that we will be breaking down here on today's live edition of Bengals Breakdown. Version 3.0 for us here at Bengals Breakdown. I don't know if it's going to be my last one. I feel like I'll probably do one more, but really like this one. I would say maybe it is my favorite one that we have done to this point. So make sure you stick around for that. As I mentioned, 2 mailbags. Get your questions in. Hashtag Bengals. Also going to be breaking down Cincinnati Bengals team needs as well. Get my timer set up here. And that is all coming up live here on Bengals Breakdown. Welcome into Bengals Breakdown. I am your host, Stone Shields. Thanks so much for hanging out with us here on a Thursday morning. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be talking about Justin Simmons. Obviously, he made some comments, was in the news, created some headlines with his conversation that he had when he went on the Up and Adams show. There have been people that have kind of been connecting Justin Simmons and Cincinnati. So we're going to be breaking down what exactly he said and my thoughts on that as well, whether or not I think that would be a good fit to bring him here to the Queen City. But before we get into that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up icon if you haven't done so already. As you can see, we are in a April like battle with our Ravens channel. Joey Peterson and those guys over there at Ravens Rundown. They are kicking our butts here in the month of April. It's still early on. They do have the bigger channel, but we can get back into this thing. We can make this thing close. Got to pop off on this video. Trying to get at least 500 likes on this one. That would be awesome. So help us out. Hit that thumbs up icon for me right now. All right, so Justin Simmons, a couple of days ago, went on Up and Adams, which, by the way, if you don't watch that, it really is incredible. Kay Adams does a tremendous job, and he told Kay Adams, 3 teams that he would like to join in that conversation. Obviously, right now he is a free agent, and it doesn't seem like he will be reuniting with Atlanta. That appears to be kind of a one-year thing. Let's dive into what exactly Justin Simmons had to say in regards to kind of the state of his free agency at this point. A team that's going to give themselves a chance to go to the playoffs and go win. As much as I'll always be a Denver Bronco, I know the 8 years that I was there were rough, and not having a playoff appearance, especially coming off that Super Bowl, and choosing Atlanta, thinking there was a shot there in the division. Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay have been doing really well in that division for a while, and so going to Atlanta, thinking there was a chance there to make something special happen. Teams like Buffalo, Philly, Cincinnati, teams like that have always been in the mix, and obviously Philly just winning it last year, it would be special. My thoughts around the corner, but first, the pinned comment of today's video. Do you have interest in signing Justin Simmons? I want to know what you guys think. Type Y for yes or N for no. If that ad comes here on YouTube, that is totally fine. You can ignore it, take advantage of it. Get down in the comments and let us know what you think. Look, I would love to bring in Justin Simmons. This is a guy that really, when he was playing in Denver, I viewed him for a part there as the best safety in the National Football League. And then, he signs that big deal with Denver, and then right before that last year of his contract, he ultimately ends up getting released, signs a 1-year deal with Atlanta. And by the way, he still had a solid year, I thought, back in 2024 with the Atlanta Falcons. Then you wouldn't have to draft a safety if you bring in a guy like Justin Simmons, right? I think safety really is a need on this football team. Not sure the organization necessarily feels as strongly about it as I do, but if you go out there and get Simmons, remember, you only have 6 draft picks right now, so you could spend time getting those offensive linemen, right? You could spend time getting some edge rushers, some linebackers, and not necessarily have to worry about that safety position if you bring in Justin Simmons. The defense needs another veteran. I've been saying this for a long time. I wanted a veteran to be brought in at that cornerback spot. Cincinnati opted not to do it. I get it. They were really, really busy this offseason dealing with the contracts of T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, which, by the way, should have been the priority, and they were the priority, so I don't have an issue with that. But this defense needs another veteran. I think a guy like Simmons there on the back end, who, by the way, I still think has some game. I still think he has some to offer in this league. And you put him around some guys, put him in a situation with Al Golden, I really think he could flourish in Cincinnati, and I definitely would be on board with bringing him in. More on Justin Simmons here around the corner, but first we do got to give a shout-out to our friends over at Game Time, as today's show is presented by Game Time. Game Time makes getting tickets even easier and faster. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. Baseball tickets, of course, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Last-minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last-minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. They've got zone deals. Save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats. Really love the all-in pricing. Toggling this feature up front allows you to see your total up front so you don't get hit with any of those surprise fees at checkout like some of those other ticketing companies can get you with. Also, the seat views. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy with Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, all guaranteed. All right, here is what he did last year in Atlanta. I love the availability there. 16 games played, right? He's the guy that can come up and be a willing tackler. Had those 2 interceptions. Was getting those PBUs as well with 7. Also was pretty solid in coverage as well, right? He had those 7 PBUs, those 2 interceptions. Only gave up 3 touchdowns. Is he the same player he was in Denver several years ago? No, he's not. But I still think he is a starter in this league. I would expect, we'll talk contract stuff a little bit around the corner, I would expect him to kind of garner similarly what he got, when he signed last year with Atlanta. But we kind of will have to play through with that and see exactly how that goes from a contract perspective. Cincinnati right now at that safety position. You brought in Geno Stone in free agency last year with Baltimore. I thought it was a really bad year for Geno Stone. Did he come on at the end of the year? For sure. but you were playing weak teams with weak quarterbacks, and I think that certainly played a part in it. Jordan Battle, you kind of looked at him as to be that guy. He took over for Von Bell pretty much immediately. But then, he had some rough moments there as well before he, too, finished the season strong. So I do have a lot of questions there with Geno Stone. You also got to have depth, too, as well. There's a lot of question marks with those backups additionally. And Justin Simmons could be a good veteran presence that could come in and help you immediately. I think he is an upgrade on Geno Stone, at least at this point. What's your confidence level in the Bengals safety room right now? Let me know what you guys think in the comments section of today's show. Scale it for me in the comments. 1 on the low end and 10 on the high end. All right, here are the top paid safeties in the National Football League right now. Again, Simmons signed that big deal several years ago with the Denver Broncos. He's not going to garner that size of a contract. I would be surprised at this point if he's signing anything beyond a 1-year deal. And when he was with the Atlanta Falcons, he signed a 1-year, $7.5 million deal. And I feel like that's probably in the ballpark of where he will be at as well. For this year going into 2025. Again, it is noteworthy here that we're several weeks into free agency, over several weeks into free agency, and he hasn't signed yet. He's kind of seems like he's going to be one of those guys that, plays on these 1-year contracts to kind of end his career, and he's certainly going to be chasing a ring. And as he talked about, he believes that he can do that here in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and the whole gang here in place. This is what he had to say in regards to the Atlanta Falcons. I'd be surprised if he was back in Atlanta. He said, at the end of the day, I think highly of R.A., head coach, and Terry Fontenot, GM, and Arthur Blank, the owner, and I think the organization is top-notch. I do think they're going to be great. It was a 1-year thing. They like their younger guys, too. Sometimes things don't work out, and you have to go in different directions. I don't know if the door's necessarily closed, but we will see. Now, this obviously would be out of character, right, for the Cincinnati Bengals. They don't make these kind of splashy moves, getting these big-name guys in free agency. You could argue he's one of the biggest names still available in free agency at this point in the NFL. So it would be out of character for Cincinnati to make this move, but I think it would solve a lot of issues on your defense and allow you to kind of use those 6 picks in different areas. Do you want to draft another young DB, or do you want to put some stability back there? So an older guy that's been around the block that knows how to play at a high level and can certainly elevate you and just needs to be in that right fit, right, with a good team. And I think he could really take that defense to the next level. The Bengals need to add a veteran, and he is one of the best ones that you still have an opportunity to add at this point. But let me be very clear on this. The reason why Simmons is making these comments is because this is the Joe Burrow effect, right? If Joe Burrow is not in place here in Cincinnati, he's not saying those kinds of things. So I think as a fan base, we need to understand that, hey, this is pretty cool. Now, Cincinnati, it might be a small city in southwest Ohio, what have you, but as long as Joe Burrow is in place, free agents are going to want to come here and play. So it is up to the front office, to make those decisions and ultimately bring those caliber of players in. They have an opportunity to do so here with Justin Simmons. Again, I would be very, very surprised if ultimately he did come here, but I definitely think it is noteworthy to talk about. And talking about something like this with Justin Simmons, I don't think it is very far-fetched. I think there is a possibility that this could happen, but I would consider it kind of unlikely considering it is the Cincinnati Bengals organization. Make sure you guys hit that sub button if you have not done so already. That's youtube.com/BengalsTV. If Cincinnati makes any more signings or there's more information coming out about Justin Simmons, we will have you covered. Hit that sub button right now. Non-football question here for you guys on today's show. The Masters Par 3 Challenge is going on right now, of course, and the tournament gets underway tomorrow. And I'm a golf guy. I like golf. But even if you're not, I feel like you should be a Masters guy. Could be wrong, but that's kind of what I have to say about that. Who you got winning? Give me some names. Let's talk some golf here for a second before we get into this mock draft. Chuck says Rory. Okay. It always feels like, with the Masters, that there's only like a handful of guys that can win it, right? Because you got, so many people that qualify and get in, and then you got the, the older guys that are still able to play. And it feels like there's probably only about 10 dudes that can realistically go out there and win. I'm with Jeff. All right, I know that's a boring answer. But I think Scotty Scheffler's going to do it again. To be honest with you, he hasn't won yet this year, right? Obviously with him, it just comes down to his putter. But Scotty, to me, feels like the pick. But he is the odds-on favorite. So, again, that's not really bold there at all. Xander Schauffele would be somebody that I really have a close eye on. He has been kind of battling through injuries, hasn't played a ton of golf. So Schauffele is a guy that I would have an eye on as well. Who else do we like here? Yeah, producer Chris, who by the way, I forgot to say, Chris Daughtry, my guy, helping us out producing today's show. Chris says Justin Thomas. That one's interesting. I'm a JT guy. Chris went to Bama, so that's probably why he's saying that. But Justin Thomas had his caddy's not able to go, so he's got a different guy on the bag for the biggest week of the year. I'm not a professional golfer, so I don't know exactly how important that is. I think it would be relatively important, though. He got a new voice in his ear for this week, the most important week of the year. But I definitely will be rooting for JT if he is there down the stretch. My favorite golfer is Jordan Spieth. He's always dangerous at this course, but I don't know if he's necessarily in a position to go out and win the tournament. But we'll talk some golf after this next segment as well, so keep it coming. Let me know who you got winning the Masters. What's going on, Bengals fans? Stone Shields on hand for another edition of Bengals Breakdown. And coming up on today's show, another 7-round mock draft from me. This is going to be my third one that we have done here at Bengals Breakdown. And I'm not sure. I probably will end up doing a fourth one. But this is mock draft 3.0 for me, and I really like this one. I would say it's definitely my favorite one to this point. So we're going to be breaking down those selections for the Cincinnati Bengals here in a second. But first, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you have not done so already. That's youtube.com/BengalsTV. Our goal here is to try to get to 19,000 subscribers before we head down to our Chat Sports headquarters in Dallas for the NFL draft. We still need 876 subs in order to make that happen, and obviously we're going in a couple of weeks. So help us out. Hit that sub button. I think we can get there. 19,000 is the next goal. So help us out and subscribe today. All right, so I ran it through the PFF simulator as I typically do, and we'll kind of break down exactly who was off the board. We'll go more in depth, obviously, with the first and second round, and then from there, some lesser, known players that we will discuss beyond that. So here are the sim picks. Cam Ward going number 1 overall to Tennessee. At this point, I'd be shocked if he did not. Shedeur Sanders actually went second to Cleveland here in this draft. And by the way, I kind of think you don't see this a ton with a lot of these, draft analysts putting out their mock drafts. If I'm Cleveland, I would heavily consider Shedeur Sanders. Travis Hunter, 3 to the Giants. Armand Membu, 4 to the Pats. Mason Graham, 5 to the Jaguars. Ashton Jeanty, 6 to the Las Vegas Raiders. Moving on, we got Abdul Carter, 7 to the Jets. Jedi Barron, 8 to the Panthers. Will Campbell, 9 to the Saints. Jamar Stewart, 10 to the Bears. Jahad Campbell, guy that we've talked about at length here, 11 to the Niners. Tyler Warren, 12 to the Dallas Cowboys. Jalen Walker off the board at number 13 overall. To the Miami Dolphins, got Will Johnson off the board as well. They're at 14, and 15 is Mykel Williams, and 16 is Donovan Ezaraku going to the Arizona Cardinals, which leaves the Bengals, round 1, pick number 17 with Malachi Starks, safety out of Georgia. Spent some time talking about Malachi Starks on this channel in the past. He's a guy that I believe is ready to go straight into the NFL at this point and be able to produce at a really, really high level when you're talking about a guy like Malachi Starks. I think he's great in the run game as well. I think he is a willing tackler. He really is a cerebral player as well. And the Bengals really struggled with that tackling ability this past season. And I think Starks can come in immediately and help with that. You worry about him, being in a straight line race with a speedster wide receiver. That really is kind of the only knock on Malachi Starks. But I think you bring him in, and he is an upgrade over really both Geno Stone and Jordan Battle at this point. I think really both those safeties that are people are talking about with Nick Amon-Warrior out of South Carolina and Malachi Starks as well. I think both of those guys could come in and really boost the Cincinnati Bengals defense. But in this situation, I am going with Malachi Starks. And if I'm the Cincinnati Bengals and you get Starks at 17 overall, it feels like you got a really good player. It feels like you have a guy that can start immediately. And it feels like you have a guy that can really be a foundational piece on your defense for years to come. Here's who else was on the board, round 1 for the Cincinnati Bengals, Mike Green, James Pierce Jr., Colston Loveland, which, if some people think Cincinnati should take Colston Loveland, I can't help you at that point. You're too far gone at that point if you think Cincinnati should take Colston Loveland. Grave Zabel and Tyler Booker, also some offensive linemen there at that spot. Really, the only guy that I pondered taking over him in this spot was Mike Green. Then you have the off-the-field kind of concerns with Green. So ultimately I went with a guy that I really like in Malachi Starks. Pin comment time. Would you draft Malachi Starks at number 17 overall? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section of today's show. Type Y for yes or N for no. If that ad comes here on YouTube, that's totally fine. You can ignore it, take advantage of it, get down in the comments. Let us know what you think. 5 more picks for the Cincinnati Bengals. We're not going to break through the entirety of round 2 here, but we'll just get to recent picks here in round 2. Got Alec Ayamanor out of Stanford, going 43 overall to the 49ers. Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State going to Dallas. TJ Sanders going to Indianapolis. Jaden Higgins, wide receiver out of Iowa State. Trey Amos going to the Arizona Cardinals. And Braden Swinson going to the Miami Dolphins. Cincinnati picks round 2, pick number 49. And I am taking JT Tuimoloau out of Ohio State. This is who Mel Kiper has mocked to the Bengals in the second round, and I'm in full agreement here with Mel Kiper Jr. I think you're picking at a spot in the first round, that 17 overall selection, where you might have to be kind of forcing it if you take an edge rusher, right? You might not, be taking a guy that you fully love. I don't think there's any reason to do that, and I think Tuimoloau, there's a good chance he is still available for you in the second round. This is a guy that's played a ton of football, right? Really had a phenomenal career at Ohio State. As a sophomore, he made some outstanding plays. People thought he was going to pop off as a junior and then leave for the NFL. Junior year was still solid, but he didn't have the same type of year that people were expecting out of him. He decides to come back along with several other dudes on that Ohio State defense. He goes nuclear in 2024 for the Buckeyes, helps lead them to a national championship. This guy is an incredibly tough football player. He's a gritty football player, and I think that toughness, that grittiness, and really that championship medal that he displayed at Ohio State could translate well to the NFL, more specifically to the Cincinnati Bengals. And as I've talked about on here, I'm not an Ohio State fan, but there's too many Michigan dudes on this team. You got to balance it out. You got to get some Buckeyes in here. And with Sam Hubbard retiring especially, I think bringing in a guy like JT Tuimoloau could be good for this defense. Other available guys that I could have taken instead of Tuimoloau, Maxwell Harrison still kind of slid down there. People really like him out of Kentucky at that corner spot. Javon Ravel Jr. out of ECU, another good corner that was available. Landon Jackson, some people would argue to take him over Tuimoloau. Ariante Ursery at that offensive line spot. And Benjamin Morrison, who a lot of Bengals fans like talking about because obviously there is that connection between Morrison and Al Golden. We'll continue with our mock draft here in a minute, but first, want to give a shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks, because today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Springtime is here and baseball season is officially underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your Prize Picks lineup. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash today. On Prize Picks, you can mix and match player projections from different sports. Combine your favorite baseball players with players from basketball, hockey, esports, and much more. They also have the Flex Play here at Prize Picks, and this is what we're rolling with here as far as our Flex Play goes here at our Chat Sports offices, going with a season-long option for football. Going with the less than for Jared Goff, passing yards. Also going with the less than Travis Kelce, receiving yards. Also going with the less than Jaden Daniels, rushing yards as well. That is our season-long Prize Picks for football season. That obviously is still a couple of months away. Best thing about the Flex Play, you don't have to get all 3 correct. You can still miss one and have an opportunity to double your money. So download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, third round selection around the corner. Here's some recent picks that have gone off the board. You got Demetrius Knight out of South Carolina going to Dallas. Jared Wilson, Mason Taylor, Jordan Phillips, and Kevin Winston Jr. all going off the board before Cincinnati picks at 81. And I've got the Cincinnati Bengals selecting Cameron Williams, offensive lineman out of Texas. And really, this is a value pick for me at this point in the draft. I was shocked that he was available for me at 81 overall, so I took him there in the third round. And I think the Bengals probably would do the same if he is available in real life. Now, Cameron Williams, Bengals obviously have a massive need at that interior offensive line spot, that offensive guard spot, right? I don't think Cameron Williams can play inside, right? He was a tackle at Texas, and I think he is going to be a tackle in the National Football League as well. And, but that doesn't mean, not to take him just because you have two starters there at that tackle position. Remember last year, Orlando Brown Jr. got hurt, and Amarius Mims was fighting through stuff as well. So it's good to have some depth there at those tackle spots. Obviously, guard is your biggest concern. But if you can get a guy like Cameron Williams in the third round, shoot. I mean, he's a guy that is a first or second round pick. Probably not a first round pick, but he's probably a second round pick. And he's available for you here at number 81 overall. I'm taking him because of the value, not necessarily the fact that, he's a tackle. We don't need a tackle. That's okay. Having a depth at that position, I think, is a really, really good thing. And he's a monster out there on the football field. And a lot of people think he's going to develop into a really good player in the NFL. Would you draft Cameron Williams in round 3? Let me know what you guys think in the comments of today's show. Type A for yes or B for no. I love this pick here. Round 4, pick number 119. Willie Lampkin out of North Carolina. In our first mock draft version 1.0, I also had Cincinnati taking Willie Lampkin, and I ran it back here again as well. This is a guy that is unbelievable at playing football. This guy is tough, and this guy really has great fundamentals as well. The only reason that he is going to slide at this point in the draft because he is an undersized guy. The traits aren't necessarily there. He gets there to where he needs to get to on just willpower, athleticism, great knowledge, football IQ, great tendencies, great leverage that he plays with, does Willie Lampkin. And some people even float around the possibility that, hey, he could be the next Jason Kelce type of player, who Kelce, of course, one of the best, if not the greatest center of all time. He doesn't necessarily have all the traits, but he was able to make it work and go out there and play football at a really, really high level. I love Willie Lampkin. I think if you get him in the 4th round, that's an absolute steal for you, and he could develop into a starter for you before the season ends. Kobe King out of Penn State, who I've got here in round 5. I think Kobe King's a guy that could come into your football team and really help from a run-stopping perspective on early downs. Does he need some improvement in coverage? Absolutely. But, playing at a big-time school like Penn State, the Bengals need another linebacker, right? Jermaine Pratt's still technically on the football team, but I'd be shocked if he was still that guy. Once the season comes around, I think it's only a matter of time before he is off this football team. Obviously, you're bringing in Oren Burks in free agency from Philadelphia, but I believe a guy like Kobe King can come in there and really develop. He's not somebody that's going to be able to give you a ton right away. I think he can do some early down stuff, run-stopping stuff, and perhaps develop into a guy that could be your starter alongside Logan Wilson. But overall, I think that'd be a good pick at pick 153 in round 5. Zeke Biggers here for the last pick for the Cincinnati Bengals, round 6, pick 193 out of Georgia Tech. This guy is a behemoth, and that's really why I'm taking him. The size from this guy is absolutely unbelievable, and I think that alone could get a team to kind of pull the trigger a little bit early on a guy like Zeke Biggers. But I think Cincinnati could use that size at that spot along the interior defensive line. And I think Big Zeke could certainly provide that out of Georgia Tech and perhaps be a steal for you at the end of the draft. Rounding up what we have done here, 7-round mock draft, but Cincinnati, of course, only has 6 picks. I'm going with Malachi Starks, round 1, pick number 17 at that safety spot. JT Tuimoloau, round 2, edge spot. I really love those first 3 picks. Cameron Williams happens to slide down out of Texas. Great value there at number 81. I'm a big Willie Lampkin guy out of North Carolina. Really love him and his game. Those four picks really fire me up. And then you got Kobe King and Zeke Biggers kind of rounding up the draft here for me in the Bengals 6 picks. Let me know. Grade this Bengals mock draft for me in the comment section of today's show. I think this one was pretty good. I think this one was pretty solid. PFF gave me a B+ on this one. So let me know what you guys think, A, B, C, D, or F. Mailbag time here on Bengals Breakdown. Make sure you get your questions in. #Bengals or Super Chat. Skip the line altogether. First of 2 mailbags that we will run here on today's live show. Chris, where are we at? That's fine. Chris said only 3 people have been sending them in, but you got multiple questions from each person. I know there's only about 50 or so people in here, so if you haven't got your questions in, get your questions in for us. #Bengals, or of course you can Super Chat, skip the line altogether, and have an opportunity to get involved here with our mailbag. We got 2 mailbags here, so keep the questions coming. We're going to do this mailbag, and then we're going to do team needs, and then we're going to do another mailbag. So plenty of time to get your questions in. Anything you want to talk about related to the Cincinnati Bengals, we can talk about, but you got to make sure you include #Bengals in your question, because that is how Chris, our guy helping us out producing today's show, my right-hand man, Chris Daughtry, that is how he finds your questions. He filters through them there with those #Bengals. So make sure you are using #Bengals when you get your questions submitted. We'll start our first mailbag here in a second. Tim Tyra, our guy, he says, "Who day, Chris?" Got a little who day action there from Chris back, Tim. Appreciate you, Tim Tyra. All right. Make sure you get your questions in. #Bengals or Super Chat to skip the line altogether. Before we get into today's mailbag, make sure you guys share today's video for me on social media if you haven't done so already. Any platform in which you desire. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, it works for us. We're just trying to get the word out there to more Bengals fans that aren't necessarily tapped in to what we're doing here at Bengals Breakdown. So help me out. Share today's video for me right now. All right, here we go. First question from Tim Tyra. He says, do you think right now, as the defense sits, the Bengals are a playoff team? This is a great question, and I really love the honesty from Tim Tyra here in this situation as well, to sit there and just not assume that Cincinnati is a playoff team. It's a good question, and I would say right now, no, because you're in a spot right now where you basically are running it back with the same defense that you have. Yeah, it was great you brought in Oren Burks, right? Yeah, it was great you brought in TJ Slayton, who I am a big fan of, and I think really is going to help boost your interior defensive line. I think he's certainly better than Sheldon Rankins, but I don't know if you have done enough at that spot in order to get into the playoffs. Now, I will say that I am really fired up about Al Golden. Love Lou Anarumo. Love what he did for this team, this organization. But I think the defense is going to play better under Al Golden, so I think that is improvement there in itself. You're obviously going to draft some guys on that defensive side of the football, and you're hoping that guys in bigger roles can step up, right? Looks like Joseph Osai is going to be asked to do more. Hopefully, Myles Murphy can develop a little bit as well. He was a first-round pick, after all, a couple of years ago. So right now, I would say no, but with the new coaching, right, guys having different opportunities to have different roles, and obviously you're going to draft as well. I think by the time we line it up week 1, they will be, but right now I'm definitely a little bit skeptical about that. William House, what do you think? Starks or Amon Morris? Great question. Really is a great question. Really, if both those guys are there and Cincinnati picks one over the other, I'm probably not going to have an issue. I prefer Malachi Starks if you're making me pick. But shoot, if the Bengals got Nick Amamwari out of South Carolina, I would love that pick as well. He is a big guy for a safety. He can fly around. He is a great tackler. He can lay the boom on guys as well. Had an incredible career out of South Carolina. And obviously, I think the world of Malachi Starks as well. I think both guys come in, start immediately, impact your football team positively immediately, and really can do a great job of getting guys on the ground. That's why you lost so many games early on. There's several reasons, of course. But you couldn't tackle. Got to get cleaned up earlier in the year, and I think both these guys would be great picks at 17 overall, and I very much would consider a safety at number 17 overall if I am the Cincinnati Bengals, if it is either Starks or Amon Ward. Stanley, will Joe Burrow be the best quarterback in the NFL next year? You guys know what I think on this by now. Yes, I think that. I think last year he was playing better than anybody in the NFL, and I think before 2024 it was okay. He's probably second best to Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, he's had the one-on-one success against Patrick Mahomes, but I still had him at that 2 spot. But the way he played last year was unbelievable. The things that he is able to overcome is what makes him so elite. The fact he got that team to the Super Bowl in 21 is incredible behind that offensive line. He constantly, consistently rises above things that get in his way, the obstacles that get in his way, and he just gets better and better and better. The expectation for me is that he will be the best quarterback in the NFL in 2025. And look, we're going to be hard on him, right? Because if he's not that, we're going to critique him for that, especially after, he went out there and said the things that he said about, wanting to pay Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, which I completely agree with. But he's got to go out there and back it up on the football field, and I have all the faith in the world that he will, and I have got him personally in that number 1 spot. Your turn. Rank Joe Burrow among NFL quarterbacks. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. 1 to 32. Let me know what you guys think. Be honest with me. I'm being honest, right? I know I'm the host of Bengals Breakdown, so obviously I've got him high, but I was honest there with that number 1 overall selection. Let me know what you guys think right now. Sean, do you believe that Dax Hill will come back and play at the level he was before he tore his ACL? Good question here from Sean. I've kind of been nitpicky on some of the guys that the Bengals have drafted early on, and I don't love getting all the Michigan guys, what have you. But Dax Hill, I was really fired up when they took him, and I really thought he was coming on strong this past season for the Cincinnati Bengals. You heard Duke Tobin talk about it at the NFL Scouting Combine, saying that he really was going to pop off if he did not get hurt, and that really was kind of where he was trending, right, with his performance out there on the football field before he suffered that injury. Obviously, it's an ACL. It's a very serious injury. You never know exactly how, guys are going to come back from that. And obviously, it's a cornerback spot. He's going to have to be running really, really fast. He's going to be at the running backwards, flipping his hips, all that stuff. Is he still going to be able to do that post-torn ACL? I am not sure, but I can promise you if he can get back to where he was the week before he got hurt, Cincinnati will absolutely love where they are at with that, and he will continue to get better and better and better. I really like Dax Hill, and really, I've said this a couple of times here on the show, you might make the playoffs if Dax Hill plays the entire year. I am that high on Dax Hill, and hopefully he can get back to that form. We'll continue with our show here in a minute, but first, got to give a shout-out to our friends over at Game Time, as today's show is presented by Game Time. Game Time makes getting tickets for live events even easier and faster. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch or the start of the event. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Last-minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Zone deals. Save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats for you. Also love the all-in pricing. Toggling this feature up front allows you to see your total up front so you don't get hit with any of those surprise fees at checkout. Also love the seat views. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy with Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets. Lowest prices, all guaranteed. Super chat here from Christian Wolf. We appreciate that, Christian. He said Walter Nolan at 17 to be a good pick. I appreciate the super chat there, Christian, but I don't think that would be a good move for Cincinnati at this spot. I don't think he's a first-round guy, to be completely honest with you. Obviously, he went out there at the Senior Bowl and he did some good things, got some people talking about him. I know Cincinnati has met with him, what have you, in the past, but 17, it feels like a bit of a stretch for me. Again, you don't want to draft the position. You want to draft the player. I'm not just saying that because I don't want to DT as my first pick in this draft, but I think there are going to be better options for you at number 17 overall. And again, I think a guy like Walter Nolan will be available later. Now, if you want to trade back to 28 and then take him there, we can have that conversation a little bit more. But I think at 17 seems like too much of a reach for me at this point. William House, what do you think about Tate Ratledge in the second? Guard from Georgia. I am a big Tate Ratledge guy. We've done some mock drafts here, and, when I'm sitting there picking a lineman, I definitely have thought about taking him in the past. I think he's a real gutsy dude, showed some great stuff at Georgia. I think he's going to have a great career in the NFL, would not have any issues with Tate Ratledge being drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals in this draft. Freddie, will Cam Taylor-Britt bounce back? Good question from Freddie. I think a lot of us kind of assumed him to kind of be that cornerback one and really come in and be a lockdown guy in the league. And obviously last year was the worst year of his career to this point. Found himself getting benched several times along the journey as well. And a lot of mental mistakes as well. And you hear stuff around town about, he likes going out to the bars downtown, likes going out to the clubs here in the fine city of Cincinnati. Probably not what you want, especially when you're not producing out there on the football field at the level in which the Bengals expect from being a high draft pick for them. I don't know. We will see. I'm hoping the new leadership defensively will help him with Al Golden. Hopefully he can utilize the best schemes that make things work the best for him. He creates some great plays, right? Like the interception week 2 against Kansas City is awesome. And he has several times where he'll just absolutely pop somebody, get everybody fired up. That's great to see as well. But if he can limit the mental mistakes, I think he has the talent to bounce back. Just a matter if he gets in the playbook, understands that, hey, I can't be making these kinds of mistakes at this point in my career, and ultimately decides to get better. He's going to be there, right? They're not going to cut him, so we'll see. I'm rooting for him, and hopefully he can turn things around. What's your confidence level in Cam Taylor-Britt? Let me know in the comment section of today's show. Scale it for me. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. Evan Anderson, do you think we run with the same cornerback room? That's the thing, man. It feels like it, which I think is a mistake, right? Here's kind of my perspective. I don't think Cincinnati should go out there necessarily and draft one. Excuse me, because you got a lot of youth in that room, right? And you might not be the best at drafting corners, right? Think about when you took Dax Hill. You weren't even drafting a corner at that point. You were drafting a safety. So, I don't know. I just think I really want them to bring in a veteran. They haven't done that yet. There's still time, by the way, for them to do that. But I think, that really was a weak point on this football team. Obviously, you're hoping DJ Turner and Dax Hill can come back and be really good for you. But it feels like they kind of are, and I definitely think that's a bit of a mistake. William House, do you think the Bengals will pick up anyone in free agency before the draft? Well, they did today when we were filming this, getting that linebacker from the Jaguars and the Patriots, helping them out on the defensive side of the football. And I was kind of surprised that they did that, to be honest with you. I thought they kind of would just, run it back with the guys that, they had and not bring any more guys in to their defense. Joe Giles Harris was the guy I was trying to think of that was slipping out of my mind. Joe Giles Harris is the guy they signed earlier today as of filming. And I was surprised that they kind of made that move. Lucas Patrick kind of felt like the last guy that they were going to do, but they brought in a guy like Joe Giles Harris. We'll see. It didn't sound like they're going to address the offensive line before the draft per Zach Taylor, but maybe they'll bring in another guy on defense. If you're enjoying this mailbag, you are in luck. We will continue to have more of them for you here at Bengals Breakdown. Always love when you guys get interactive, get your questions in with hashtag Bengals. We appreciate all you guys. Make sure you hit that sub button if you haven't done so already. Sean, how you feeling about the Trey Hendrickson situation, and do you think that he will still be a Bengal at the start of the year? A couple weeks ago it was, I feel fine. He'll definitely be here. And then he goes on the McAfee show, which is a mistake, going on there and saying what he said. The Bengals have shown as an organization in the past, if you go at them from a public perspective like that, they're going to dig their feet in. So I don't know. Look, the biggest mistake he made was signing that 1-year extension, right? If you wanted, it to be over a longer period of time, you shouldn't have signed the 1-year extension. And, I feel like him and his agent have made mistake after mistake after mistake in the offseason. But obviously the play out there on the football field is incredible. Right now, I think he will be with Cincinnati to start the year. I don't think they're going to trade him. But are they going to get a new deal for him? I don't know. And then would he ultimately sit out and miss games? I guess that is becoming more and more of a possibility. But I'll say yes still for now, and I would lean on the optimistic side and say that Hendrickson and the Bengals are going to figure something out. Who you got winning the Masters? Let me know in the comments of today's show. Appreciate the super chat. from Christian Wolf. Got to be kidding me, Tim. Reds only up 1. 2 guys on. Unbelievable. Who gave up those runs, Tim? Was it Martinez? Also a good point. Gray Zabel probably go towards the end of the first round. He's a guy that's kind of skyrocketing up people's boards, so definitely could be a possibility there. Let me know who you got winning the Masters. Get some names for us in the comment section. So we're going to do another segment, and then we're going to come back and do another mailbag. So make sure you continue to get your questions in. Hashtag Bengals and Super Chat. Are you out of juice, Chris? Do you have any more available questions? Oh, you do. Perfect. Keep the questions coming. A couple more segments to get to here on today's live show. Take a sip of water here, and then we will get right to it. Martinez was pulled, says Tim. Looks like Scott Barlow's in right now. Christian Wolf says Spieth. I love it. I love it. I love it. Hopefully. I don't know if he's ready to win right now, but certainly knows how to play well at that course. No doubt about it. All right. We'll check on the Reds here after this segment, but it's time to discuss some Bengals team needs. What position group concerns you the most for the Cincinnati Bengals? Obviously, they've got lots of areas of their team that they need to address. But let me know what you guys think. What position group concerns you the most? Is it edge rusher? Is it linebacker? Is it safety? Is it corner? Is it offensive line? Let me know regardless in the comments right now. Here we go. Welcome in to Bengals Breakdown. I am your host, Stone Shields, and coming up on today's show, we're going to be breaking down some Bengals team needs. They got 6 of them that we are going to discuss here on today's show. And the first one, I think, is defensive end. Now, I have ranked these. I have kind of floated around some, ordering here. At times I've come on here and said offensive line is the number 1 team need. But right now I was feeling like going with defensive end. Obviously, in this position room, right now, you're dealing with Trey Hendrickson and Joseph Osai as your main 2 guys. But the elephant in the room, of course, is what the heck is going to happen with Trey Hendrickson, right? Are you going to be able to reach a long-term agreement? Or are you just kind of going to try to let it ride? Is he going to hold out games? What exactly is going to happen? You're bringing back Joseph Osai on a 1-year deal, which I did not think was the right call. Hopefully I am wrong and Cincinnati is right. You got some depth behind him. Really like Cedric Johnson, your 6th-round pick out of Ole Miss. Miles Murphy, you're kind of holding on to hope that he can show something for you, right? Former 1st-round pick. You also got Cam Sample and Isaiah Thomas in there at this point as well. Look, it's clear you don't ever want to draft a position over a player, but you got to get an edge early, like within the first 3 rounds. You got 6 picks right now. Within the first 3, I think you got to take somebody that can get after the quarterback. And remember, if Trey Hendrickson, if you're in a situation where he's holding out, right, or isn't on your football team, it's a massive issue because it was arguably the weakest part of your football team this past year, and you had the sack leader in the NFL. Trey Hendrickson, of course, having 17.5 sacks this past season. So obviously, hopefully, everything continues to work itself out with Trey Hendrickson. But beyond that, you have to address that position, and I've got that as the number 1 need for me right now at this point. Number 2, I've got offensive line. Again, I've kind of gone back and forth. Could have put this at 100%. I totally get it. But think about all you've done this year in this offseason. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, massive deals, massive extensions. Joe Burrow, a couple of years ago, massive deal, massive extension, right? In order for all that to work, you got to get some protection for number 9. Now, he has done a great job in his career of playing with guys that aren't, the best at playing their offensive line position. He has dealt with weak offensive lines in the past. But those guard spots, Cordell Volson and Cody Ford, all you have done in free agency is bring in Lucas Patrick. Obviously, you haven't traded for anybody either at that position. I feel really good about where you're at tackle-wise if they can stay healthy, but you got to figure out what you do there with the interior. Don't want Joe getting heated up like that from the interior of the pocket. Got to find a way to address it. Now, as I said, you had a lot on your plate this offseason. And this kind of got neglected a little bit in the offseason. And I don't have a problem with that, to be completely honest with you, Priority number 1 and 2 for me were Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. You accomplished it. You checked it off. That should be celebrated. But in the meantime, you kind of neglected that offensive line position. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite you. Now, you do have a new voice in that room with Scott Peters coming in as your new offensive line coach. Zach Taylor thinks very highly of him, obviously. I'm starting to really get on the Scott Peters train as well. But you got a new voice. You also got to get some new bodies in there as well, because this can't just be something kind of similar with the defense as well. Oh, we're just going to bring in a new coach, and that's going to fix all of our issues. Hopefully it fixes a lot of your issues, but you also just need new personnel as well. Cody Ford, proved to be a fine swing tackle, I guess, but he can't be a guy that goes out there and starts for you along the interior of your offensive line. It's got to get addressed, and hopefully Scott Peters can help develop the guy that they pick in the draft, and hopefully he can be ready to go at some point during this season. How many offensive linemen do you want to draft? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Bengals, of course, have 6 picks right now. Is there a number that you want? Let me know in the comments of today's show. Safety. Next up here for me for the Cincinnati Bengals. I thought last year your safety play was really bad, to be completely honest with you. You brought in Geno Stone from the Baltimore Ravens in free agency. I thought he had probably the worst year of his career here in Cincinnati. Now, maybe Al Golden can do a better job of utilizing his strengths a little bit more, something that maybe Lou Anarumo didn't do. But how many times would the corners get beat, which corners an issue too, which we'll get to in a minute, but then your safeties were getting beat over the top as well. They were missing tackles. They were taking bad angles. That seemingly was a theme, a reoccurring theme, particularly in the beginning of the season. That's got to be addressed. And I've been adamant about this, that, hey, I want Cincinnati to go out there and get a new safety, either via the draft or free agency. And obviously they have not done it yet. I'm worried that Cincinnati's content running it back. It kind of feels like, they're just going to send Geno Stone back out there and still have a lot of belief in Geno Stone. When you hear guys like Zach Taylor and Duke Tobin talk, I do believe that is a mistake. There's 2 really good safeties here at the top end of this draft. Nika Mamwori and Malachi Starks, of course, as well. I think both those guys could be day 1 starters for you. Could come into your program, come into your organization, and immediately make an impact. One of them is probably going to be available at 17. Question is, do you take him or not? We'll continue with our show here in a minute. But first, want to give a shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks, because today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Springtime is here and baseball season is officially underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your Prize Picks lineup, whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs. Take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash today. On Prize Picks, you can now mix and match player projections from different sports. Combine your favorite baseball players with players from basketball, hockey, esports, and much more. They also have the Flex Play here at Prize Picks. This is what we're rolling with as far as our season-long Flex Play goes for football, which obviously is several months away, going with the less than on Jared Goff passing yards, the less than on Travis Kelce receiving yards, and the less than on Jaden Daniels rushing yards. The beautiful thing about the Flex Play, you don't have to get all 3 of those correct. You can miss one and still have an opportunity to double your money. So download the app today and use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app, use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, kind of tying in with that safety position, right? Got to be better at that cornerback spot when you're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals in 2025. Hopefully your guys that got hurt can come back and do really good stuff for you. I've got Dax Hill here at that nickel spot. Mike Hilton hasn't signed anywhere officially, but I would be shocked if he was back. Obviously, Hill coming off that significant injury with the ACL. Hopefully, he can get back to form. DJ Turner also was coming on strong before he fractured his clavicle against the Los Angeles Chargers. But it kind of feels like Cincinnati is running it back here at this cornerback spot, right? The cornerback room right now is full. You're bringing back Marco Wilson on a 1-year deal who did some good third down stuff for you in limited spots. that's kind of like your veteran, and he's not even a veteran. He's still a young guy. I wanted a veteran over a draft here when I was talking about that cornerback position. I thought that was the route to go. You have so much youth in that cornerback room, and you're not even really for sure that you know how to draft corners at a high level. Again, it seems like Dax Hill, some guys are coming along, but bringing in another young guy to that room feels like a mistake. I really wanted a veteran. Yeah, didn't do it. You haven't done it yet. Still have some guys out there available on the open market that you can potentially sign, but I think veteran is probably the better route to go than draft pick, especially considering you only have 6 draft picks at this point. Let me know what you guys think, though. Do you want to draft a cornerback? Sound off for us in the comments section. Type Y for yes or N for no. 2 more positions that we will get to here on today's show. First up is linebacker, right? Cincinnati has, made some moves at that linebacker spot. Bringing in Oren Burks in free agency, also signing Joe Giles Harris, who really is very much more of a special teamer, at this point. But Logan Wilson needs a running mate. I am very, very high on Logan Wilson. The past 2 years haven't been his best, but I think with Al Golden coming back, we're about to see the best year of Logan Wilson in 2025. He also was playing through injuries and ultimately had to sit out at the end of the season with those injuries. Al Golden can draft and develop here. This is different than the opposite of what I just said about the cornerback spot, right? Al Golden, his specialty is linebackers. Think about the linebacker play in 2021 when the Bengals went to the Super Bowl. Who was coaching those boys? It was Al Golden. He knows how to coach linebackers. If you get him one, right, if you take Jahad Campbell in the first round, he's going to be brilliant for you, right? And if you take one in the 3rd or 4th round or the 5th round or the 6th round, Al Golden's going to do a great job of developing. I would like to draft a linebacker, and I think he will butt into a guy that could perhaps be that running mate for Logan Wilson, of course, assuming Jermaine Pratt is no longer with the team. Last one here is running back as far as team needs go for the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, you've made some adjustments to this running back room. You brought in Samaje Perine, brought him back. Obviously, he was most recently with Kansas City. And behind that, you got to have some question marks, right? You don't know exactly what's going to happen with Zach Moss. Is he a cut candidate? Is he not? And there's some other guys in that room, Chris Evans, right? And, of course, Travion Williams that aren't going to be back. So you have some depth that needs to be filled out at running back, but I'm conflicted on what to do here because the top end of your room, Chase Brown is an elite running back in the NFL. He's your RB1, no question about it. And you got your 3rd down guy in Samaje Perine. So do you try just to kind of tackle the UDFA side of things for running backs, right? Does Kendall Milton develop into that guy that could potentially be your 3rd running back if you don't have Zach Moss on your football team? That could all be a possibility, but this running back class is elite, right? When I look at the draft, it feels like kind of a weak draft, but the running back position, no, not weak at all. It is elite, but you only have 6 picks. And you've got lots of other bigger needs as well. And, I think drafting a running back certainly could be helpful, but again, only have 6 picks, have lots of other positions of need. So I was kind of conflicted on what to do there. It'll be interesting to see if Cincinnati opts to take one in the draft or not. Second mailbag. Segment 5. We are just chugging along here on Bengals Breakdowns to a Reds check. They are up 1. Man on second for the Giants. 1 out. The Giants are threatening here in the home half of the 7th. And I have reason to believe that Jake Fraley made yet another mistake defensively. But we'll see. 6-5 for now. Don't have the game on, but I got the ESPN app pulled up. Williams says if Chase Brown got hurt, who's running back 1? Yeah, you're right. Fair. I mean, Samaje Perine, he's not an every down back kind of guy. And if you cut Zach Moss, obviously you're in trouble. So definitely need the depth. Just a matter of if you can do it through the UDFA class or if you need to burn a pick on a running back or not. Tim says top of the 8th, so it looks like they were able to get out of it. Mine is only showing bottom 7, but appreciate you, Tim, for your updates. Make sure you guys get your questions in. One final segment here on today's live show. It is another mailbag. Make sure you get your questions in, #Bengals, or you can super chat just like Christian Wolf did. Skip the line altogether and get involved here with our show. Before we get into today's mailbag, make sure you guys give me a follow over on Twitter @StoneShields_. Trying to get to 600 followers here by the end of the month of April. All of our Bengals Breakdown content will be posted to my Twitter page. You'll also find a lot more short-form content up there these days as well. So help me out. Give me a follow over on Twitter @StoneShields_. All right, here we go. Chuck getting us started here on today's mailbag. Kirkland looked good in preseason last year. Do you think he overtakes Volson with the new O-line coach this year? Ooh, good question here from Chuck. Jackson Kirkland, of course, made the team for the Cincinnati Bengals. Then he suffered a season-ending injury. I want to say it was a torn triceps, perhaps. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong, but regardless, it was a season-ending injury. I think the Bengals are high on Jackson Kirkland, but as far as overtaking Cordell Volson goes, I think right now their hope with Scott Peters and Zach Taylor is that Scott Peters is going to be able to make Cordell Volson a quality starter, which obviously we all have our concerns with that, considering where he is ranked among the league over the past couple of years. I think the new voice certainly will help. Don't think Kirkland is going to overtake him as a starter, but I feel really, really good about Jackson Kirkland as a backup. And I think if he didn't get hurt, that would have kind of quelled some of the issues Cincinnati had along the offensive line last year, after some guys were getting nicked up. From Jeff, how do you feel about Watts, safety from Notre Dame? Xavier Watts, of course, is who Jeff is referring to. Obviously, lots of people are going to talk about Xavier Watts and the Cincinnati Bengals. I think he's a round 2 guy, and I think you definitely need a safety. And obviously, he played it at Notre Dame, so he played for Al Golden, who, of course, is the defensive coordinator now for the Cincinnati Bengals. To answer your question, I feel really good about him. I don't put him on the same tier as Malachi Starks and Nick Amamwari. But if you were to take an edge or a linebacker in round 1 and Watts was available to you in round 2, I feel like he might be a little bit too early in round 2. He might be off the board by the time you pick there in the second round. But I'm a big fan of him, and I think he could come in. Obviously, the built-in rapport that he has with DC Al Golden would be beneficial. I would love Xavier Watts to Cincinnati. Charles, should Cincinnati draft a quarterback? Look. At some point, we're going to have to, be able to have this question, right? Jake Browning is under contract for one more season, and I believe he becomes a restricted free agent. But at some point, I feel like some team is going to want to pay Jake Browning a little bit, and Jake Browning will probably ultimately leave at some point. And obviously, you will need to have a backup for Joe Burrow. And obviously, let me be very clear here. When we're talking about drafting a quarterback, it is not the start, right? Joe Burrow is the guy, and he will be until he is no longer here, meaning no longer in Cincinnati. But this will become a question where, hey, Bengals probably need to draft a quarterback in the later rounds. It's not this year. You got a bunch of needs on your team. You got Jake Browning still in place for 2025, and you only have 6 picks. So at this point, no, but at some point it will be interesting in terms of who's going to be Joe Burrow's next backup when it is no longer Jake Browning. Let me know what you guys think, though. Should Cincinnati take a quarterback in this year's draft? I don't really think there's any good quarterbacks either that you could take at the end anyway, but let me know what you guys think in the comments of today's show. Type Y for yes or N for no. Evan Anderson, do you think the Bengals should sign Asante Samuel, or for some reason is still a free agent? I was really high on Asante Samuel when he was coming out of college, and then you understand why he's still kind of unsigned here at this point because the play over the past couple of years was not up to snuff. I'm looking for a bit of a guy that's kind of older. Obviously, Samuel played out his rookie contract, but I probably would stay away from Asante Samuel Jr., to be completely honest with you. I'm looking for a vet to come in, help lead that room on a one-year deal type thing. And I don't think that is Asante Samuel Jr. Obviously, there's hype because who his dad is, and there was hype when he came out of the draft, but I think the play out there on the football field just hasn't been good enough the past couple of years. Sean, how do you feel about Eric All and his future? Yeah, look, I'll be honest with you. When the Bengals took Eric All, I didn't really understand the pick, and then you saw him out there as a rookie, and he was unbelievable for you on offense. It is a shame that the Bengals are going to be without him. in 2025. Hopefully he is back to form in 2026. That was always the worry with Eric All Jr. was the injury history. He had some injuries at Michigan, had him at Iowa as well. And look, I think, you don't need to panic at the tight end spot. Obviously, you're bringing back Gesicki, who's not really a tight end. He's a big slot. But you're also bringing back guys like Cam Grandy and Tanner Hudson. And Drew Sample is just coming off the best year of his career as well. So I think the tight end spot is in fine hands right now. Hopefully, Eric All can come back in 2026. Definitely is a shame the Bengals will be without him next season. We'll continue with our show here in a minute, but first, want to give a shout-out to our friends over at Game Time, because today's show is presented by Game Time. Game Time makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch or the start of your event. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Last-minute deals save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, comedy, concerts, theater, and more. Love the zone deals. Save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats for you. It's incredible. They take care of it for you. All-in pricing, toggling this feature up front, allows you to see your total up front so you don't get hit with any surprise fees at checkout like some of those other ticketing companies can get you with. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, all guaranteed. GR Sports, does Joe Burrow win MVP and does Jamar win? Does Joe Burrow win MVP and does Jamar win Offensive Player of the Year? Only a matter of time, I would say, before that happens. Will it happen in 25? I don't know. Definitely have some questions along the offensive line. Are they going to, prevent that from happening? Joe Burrow will win an MVP before he retires, and Jamar Chase will win the Offensive Player of the Year before he retires as well. Dylan Keaton, $5 super chat. Appreciate you, Dylan, for sending that in. Before free agency, we all talked about how weak this free agency class was, and people keep bashing the Bengals. I personally love the moves they made. Love the optimism there, Dylan, completely. Look, their focus was on T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, as it needed to be, and it was. And they checked it off, and they got it accomplished, right? As far as, not bringing enough guys in, yeah, I kind of agree with you, Dylan. I'm fine with the guys that they brought in. TJ Slayton from the Packers, I like him a lot. He is a massive upgrade from Sheldon Rankins. For me, the only issues was kind of bringing back some of the guys like Joseph Osai, and I hate to bash B.J. Hill because I love him and he's done so much great stuff for the Bengals, but you didn't necessarily know if you kind of just thought that it was going to be done with B.J. Hill. Now he's coming back, and it's like, it's a little bit, we're just kind of running it back type thing with the defense. But, yeah, as far as lack of moves, I don't really have an issue. Would have liked to seen you get another offensive lineman early on before you got Lucas Patrick, but I think the Bengals have overall done some really good things this offseason, obviously highlighted by Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and Mike Gesicki, too, for that matter. Brian Harmon, should we cut Jermaine Burton? Best of luck in your golf rounds, Brian, if that is you. But it's a question. It's tough, right? Personally, I don't think the Bengals will. Hearing Duke Tobin talk at the NFL Combine, they're going to give him another chance. So we'll see. And if I was calling the shots, it would be tough. Because for me, sitting here talking to you guys, yeah, cut him, right? I mean, he's being an idiot, and he's done some horrible things. He's been accused of doing some horrible things, so cut him. But if you have to think about it from the Bengals' perspective, right, you spent a third-round pick on him. He hasn't, been convicted of anything, right? So you just kind of got to give him another year and see if he can, get things together, because it's a shame because the talent is there. You see why you took him in the third round, right? When you see him running around out there on the football field, you see the ferociousness in which he plays with. But it would be a tough decision. I'm glad I don't have to make it. I would say cut him from me. But if I'm Duke Tobin, can I say cut him? Probably not. I know it's not a direct answer, but that's the best I got for you right now. Give me your answer. Let me know what you guys think. What would you do with Jermaine Burton? Type K for keep or C for cut. Christian Wolf. Field Yates has us taking Gray Zabel at 17. Your thoughts? We have a video up on the channel talking about all of that, breaking it down, but I'll give you kind of the spark notes of it here at this point. I don't hate the decision to go guard at that spot. You just better hope that you're getting the right guy, right? Because I don't remember if Tyler Booker was off the board or not. But if you're taking an interior offensive lineman, you got to make sure that he is your guy, and you got to make sure Scott Peters likes him. You got to make sure Scott Peters is going to be able to develop him as well. So I don't hate the pick, right? Taking guard at 17, I do not have an issue with that. Gray Zabel has skyrocketed up people's draft boards over the past couple of weeks. When we were down at the Combine, people were raving about him as well. I think he's going to be a good football player. Is he good enough to go at 17? I'm not sure. But positionally, I don't have any issues with taking an interior offensive lineman at number 17. If you are enjoying this mailbag, you are in luck. We are going to be here with more of them all off season long. Don't miss out on any of our mailbags. Hit that sub button right now, youtube.com/BengalsTV. Next up here from Cobra Kai Zone. Why are the Bengals using their 30-day visits on RB? I am very high on Chase Brown and don't see the need, especially with all of our holes. It's fair. Look, they got 30 of them. And, you know, they're going to use them with the guys that they're thinking about potentially drafting. Chase Brown's your running back one, but as we've talked about here on the show, the question is, do you draft another one or not? You know, people have brought up the question, hey, what if something happens to Chase Brown? What do you do? Yeah, I mean, Samaje Perine, he can't be your running back one. You might cut Zach Moss, so you've got issues there at that spot if something does happen to him. Be very clear, you're not looking for an RB1. You've got your RB1, but you've got to, you know, those running backs, man, they take massive shots. And you got to have a good backup plan if something does happen to him. I feel really good about Kendall Milton, who's your UDFA from Georgia last year. And, you know, I think he could perhaps develop into something as well. But it is interesting to see if Cincinnati will opt to draft one. I think if you had more than 6 picks, you definitely do. And this class is so loaded. But definitely don't want to take one early whatsoever in this draft. Let me know, do you want to sign Justin Simmons? Sound off for us in the comments of today's show. Type Y for yes or N for no. Tim says hopefully Burton is learning the playbook this offseason. Yep, no doubt. Absolutely. Can we get a Reds update here? What's going on with the boys? And we're tied. Tie ball game. That's brutal. 6-6, bottom of the 8th. Man, a sweep would be elite. Hopefully things work out for them. See a lot of Y's. Tim Tyler says no, he's good. He wants Malachi Starks. I know you do, Tim. That's okay. I don't have an issue with that as well. Don't miss out on any Bengals news. Make sure you guys hit that sub button. We are not going to be live next Wednesday. And then I think we have the draft the following week. So I'm not exactly sure what our live schedule will be throughout the remainder of the month of April. We will be live again at some point, but we'll have tons of videos for you. Especially during the draft, we'll be cranking out those videos, so don't miss out on any of our coverage. Hit that sub button right now, youtube.com/BengalsTV.